So you want bigger legs. Well, the consensus is you probably should be squatting. But what are the best squat variations for maximizing quad growth? Well, in this video, I'm gonna be ranking the best ways to squat on a tier list from S for should definitely try to D for definitely do not do. Now the criteria is gonna be on screen right now, but ultimately remember that this is my opinion. So let's get into the 9 different ways to squat. Now the first exercise on the list is of course the coveted barbell squat. Now, pretty much all squat variations are going to be more lengthened focused. However, if you have the mobility for it and you're a shorter individual, call it like under 5'8", the barbell squat is probably going to be one of the best ways to actually do a squat while also allowing you to get a deep range of motion going all the way down ass to grass, because since this is a free weight exercise, we're not restricted by the mobility in this bottom position. On top of that, progression is gonna be really good because it's plate loaded. You simply add more weight if you need more resistance. But the biggest problem with this exercise has to do with the core stability requirement. This exercise has a higher stability requirement because we have to maintain this upright position, which is why this exercise is ultimately super divisive. Some people who have good mobility, they have no problems doing this exercise, and they're like, yeah, this is actually a great exercise. I can get super low, no problem. But there's another camp of people. Maybe they struggle with mobility because they have longer femurs. Maybe they get lower back pain on this exercise. They absolutely hate it. So in my opinion, I personally never struggle with this exercise, but I see why this is a more difficult exercise to execute properly. So I would give this ultimately an A tier. Now the second exercise on the list is gonna be the barbell front squat. Pretty much all the same stats as a barbell back squat, same progressive overload, same fact that we're using free weight, same range of motion, but arguably less stable because we have to maintain this rack position. Now, a lot of people have difficulty with this. If you don't have the mobility to go all 5 fingers like this, a lot of people like going cross arm, but I recommend taking 2 fingers instead of 5. But with that said, if you're an Olympic lifter, then this exercise makes sense. If you're not, you need a little bit more of a reason to be specifically doing this. Now, I think personally, this can have a place in an individual's workout routine because I think it can be a good way to train people to have an upright torso position if they're high bar back squatting and they tend to get lower back pain. But if I have to rank this exercise objectively, I would have to give it a C tier. All right, so exercise number 3 is the recently popular hack squat machine. Now, compared to the free weight variations of a squat, this exercise is gonna be much more stable because, of course, we're on a machine. We don't have to worry about balancing or trying to maintain an upright torso position, at least not that much, as long as you're keeping your back glued to this pad. Now, this exercise would be good for taller individuals because you can actually go all the way ATG while being super stable, but for a lot of short individuals out there, you're gonna notice that you're probably gonna be running out of range of motion if you try to squat too deep here. Now, depending on your height and the specific machine, your mileage may vary whether you can actually go deep or not. So, like, ironically, even though most people do this exercise because they actually are able to go super deep, if you're shorter, it's the fact of the matter that you're probably just gonna run out of the range of motion there. And because of that, I don't think this is actually as good of an exercise that a lot of people make it out to be. But with that said, I have to give credit where credit's due because for a lot of people that hate the barbell back squat, they might like this exercise a lot better because they're not getting lower back pain. It feels more comfortable for them. They don't have to worry about anything other than just pressing off. So with that said, progression is good. You can train to failure pretty safely because you have a machine to catch you. This exercise is gonna be a solid B tier.
Real quick, if you're looking to fast track the learning process to getting to your fitness goals, like these fine gentlemen that you see on screen, then I highly recommend you apply to my exclusive one-on-one fitness coaching program where I pretty much do just that. I take out all the guesswork to getting to your fitness goals. You'll know exactly what you need to do, from workout programming, meals, weekly check-ins, and even the ability to message whenever you want. If that sounds interesting to you, apply in the link in the description.
All right, so exercise number 4 is gonna be the seated hack squat, which is pretty much like a shoulder pad hack squat, but worse in almost every single way. Range of motion is usually a bit worse. It also feels a little bit more awkward. And I find this exercise is gonna be better for a more glute-focused squat compared to a quad-focused one. I will say the benefits of this exercise is that, well, you're not gonna be loading the spine as much, so if you tend to get lower back pain, this could be a good option. But all in all, for the quads, this is definitely gonna be a D tier. Now, exercise number 5 is gonna be the plate-loaded leg press. Now, unlike the last exercise, the hack squat, short individuals are not gonna have a problem with going super deep on this exercise. Plus, I find this exercise to be even more stable than a hack squat. Thus, from the perspective of getting a lengthened focused squat variation, this is gonna be a pretty good option because we can definitely get a deep squat on this exercise. However, I will say in practicality, a lot of people have the issue of rounding their back as they go deeper on this exercise, which is obviously not gonna be a good thing. So for those choosing this exercise because they wanna avoid getting quote unquote back pain from a barbell squat, you still have to be mindful that you need to avoid rounding your back at the bottom of a leg press. Now the progression, like on the other exercises, is gonna be really good since this is plate loaded, but I feel like a lot of people have the assumption that the leg press is better or safer for their lower back, when I wouldn't necessarily think that's true, because you still need to avoid, again, rounding your back at that bottom position. But also, for some individuals, you know, if you're dealing with lower back pain right now, this seated position might not be the most comfortable one. So as long as you're not doing this because it's safer for your lower back, I would give this exercise an A tier. All right, number 6 is gonna be the pendulum squat. Now this exercise, man, it's more stable than a hack squat. It doesn't discriminate by height. If you're short, you can still go super deep on this without running into any range of motion issues. And this exercise actually allows you to get the best stretch possible on your quads because of the pendulum movement pattern. On top of that, I would say this is probably the best quad exercise period, because even in the extend position, because your hip's not fully extended, there's still even gonna be a little bit more tension just by standing here alone compared to if you're all the way up straight like this. Now, if you're wondering why I'm praising getting a deep range of motion, going ATG, getting a good stretch on your quads, well, the reason being is there's a lot of evidence showing that if you train a muscle at longer lengths, so if you allow it to get a really good stretch, or the majority of the tension is in that more stretched position, this is actually gonna be beneficial for hypertrophy. On top of that, the quads are a muscle that tends to benefit from stretch-mediated hypertrophy. So that's only another reason why you should be focusing on exercises that allow you to get a deep stretch on the quads. Now, there's 2 gripes I have with this exercise. First off, in terms of progression, now it's like any other exercise. You just pop a plate on, what's the difference? Well, this exercise will feel extremely heavy. So I think for some beginners, even just an empty rack without any plates might be too difficult for them. The second gripe I have, which is probably the bigger one, is you can't find this exercise anywhere. Like, people call this exercise a unicorn for a reason. But of course, that's not part of the criteria. So with that said, this exercise is a very, very solid S tier. Now, the 7th exercise on the list is gonna be the dreaded Bulgarian split squat. Now, I'm including a split squat on the list of squats for a couple reasons. Now, of course, this is gonna be a length and focus exercise, but not gonna be the most stable because, well, we're holding dumbbells up and we're gonna be bouncing on one leg. On top of that, progression is gonna be a little bit of a problem because your grip is definitely gonna be a limiting factor. With that said, this exercise serves a very specific and unique purpose that kind of transcends the previous criteria. So in the quads, there's a muscle known as the rectus femoris. It is a biarticular muscle, meaning it crosses both the hip joint as well as the knee joint. Why is that important? Well, on a traditional squat, because we're moving both the hip and the knee joint, the rectus femoris isn't actually able to contribute on the movement because of this biarticular nature. So instead, on a Bulgarian split squat, if we focus on not the front leg, but the back leg, because we're able to stabilize this hip joint, the rectus femoris is actually able to contribute meaningfully on this exercise. Thus, the Bulgarian split squat actually allows us to train that muscle. Now, you can try this at home, like literally get no weight. Make sure you have the top of your foot touching the bench like this. Don't go like here. And you're gonna notice when you come down in this deep position, you're gonna feel a massive stretch there. That's gonna be your rectus femoris. Now, technically, you can train this muscle on different exercises like a leg extension, but the idea with a leg extension is that it's gonna be hardest at the top. Here, on this exercise, we're getting a length and focus exercise, meaning the hardest part is gonna be in this bottom position. Thus, like I mentioned earlier, the benefits of stretch-mediated hypertrophy and just training at longer lengths makes the Bulgarian split squat a very good exercise for the rectus femoris. This is an immediate B tier. Okay, the number 8 exercise on this list is gonna be a sissy squat. Now, don't follow me as a good representation of what a sissy squat should look like, because I'm definitely not an expert at this exercise and probably butchering it. But the idea with this exercise is, like the Bulgarian split squat, you're able to bias the rectus femoris, which is again, that one head of the quads that is biarticular, crosses both the hip and knee joint. The idea with the sissy squat is you're stabilizing the hip joint, so you can focus on just straightening your knee, which allows you to train the rectus femoris. Now with that said, this is also gonna be a length and focus exercise where the hardest part is gonna be in this bottom position. But as you imagine, stability is a big issue on this. Well, not exactly stability, but more should I say balance, because for one thing, this exercise really awkwardly requires you to keep your hip joint locked so that you can focus on the extension of your knee. So in terms of progression, I guess you technically can hold a dumbbell. I've seen some people use the Smith machine for the sissy squat, but I'm just not even gonna try that. So overall, while you can bias the rectus femoris on this exercise pretty well, I think for most individuals, you're probably gonna struggle to do this exercise. So I give it an immediate D tier. All right, y'all, and the last exercise on the list is gonna be a Smith machine squat. Now, for those that hate the balance and stability aspect of a barbell squat, but at the same time, maybe too short to do the hack squat, don't like the leg press because they tend to round their back, and don't have access to a pendulum squat because they can't find unicorns, well, it's gonna be a good option. Because from a Lincoln focus standpoint, there's pretty much nothing stopping you from going super deep on this exercise, unlike the hack squats of earlier. And from a balance and stability aspect, this exercise essentially tends to take the balance out of the equation, but it's not gonna be as stable as, of course, a hack squat or a leg press. So I like to think of it as like a hybrid between a barbell squat and a machine squat. Now, progression is gonna be the same like for most other plate-loaded exercises, and from a pain-free standpoint, this is still quite similar to a barbell squat. Like, you're still gonna be loading your spine, so your mileage may vary on that. So I think overall, this exercise can be a good supplement for those that like barbell squatting but want to do something else. Just make sure to remember to take a step forward compared to a regular barbell squat because of the slant.
With all of that considered, this is going to be an A tier exercise.
And those were the 9 best ways to do the squat for maximizing quad growth. I hope you guys are enlightened from this video and armed with the knowledge to actually grow some tree trunk legs, as long as you don't skip. But with that said, another thing you shouldn't be skipping on is hitting the like button, as it is the super easy way to actually support my page, and it's completely free. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hit subscribe to level up your physique, and don't forget to hit the bell notification and get these videos right to you. I get so many comments saying, oh man, dude, I just freaking hit triceps today. This video's late. Well, if you hit the bell, potentially you can watch those videos while you're even at the gym. So that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.